Hello and welcome to another episode of the BoKcast. I'm John BoKcast.
Hey, I'm Eamon BoKcast.
And today we're sort of coming back off of a couple of months without recording, but weirdly enough, the listening has been quite patchy. So we're going to get some of the gripes out of the way to begin with.
Yeah.
And it's a partial gripe to begin with.
Partial gripe. And this is what the listeners love. They love to hear us talk about farts and pig stinkers. So I guess we're going to give it to you up front. No beating about the bush. Here's the shiters.
So we'll start with one that's it's a minor stinker, a stinker minor.
Yes. Maybe not a pig stinker, maybe like what's a less filthy animal than a pig? like a badger?
Yeah.
Lives under... No, badgers give cows TB, don't they? Pigs are quite... I mean, the whole thing with the pig stinker is I quite like pigs.
Pigs are very clean animals.
But okay, well, here's the thing. A pig's got character.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't a pig stinker because it's got no character.
That's true.
Maybe it's like an animal that doesn't have any character but still is a stinker. Well,
it would be like a kind of a nondescript rodent.
Yeah.
Like perhaps like
Is it a rat? Is it a vole? Who knows?
And those things get into some shit, so sometimes they are a bit stinky.
Yeah, so this is, I guess, nondescript rodent stinker.
It's Eminem with songs to be murdered by.
And if when I first listened to this, I would have imagined by the time of recording this would have been my worst record of the month. I was proven wrong on multiple occasions.
Yeah.
But yeah. Eminem has been on a downturn since Encore onwards.
Yeah, including and on from Encore.
And Encore. I mean, I think I've spoken in multiple episodes about that album. Is a fascinating... In terms of one of the few rap records that you can hear fatness in the vocals.
It's an interesting cultural relic because it very much epitomizes the end of the dark time of rap from like the 2000s.
It's bloated as Eminem's body was at the time. It's bloated and you can hear him slightly slurred because he's on the pills big time.
Yeah.
And it's just a fucking mess of an album. But that is the last album that he made that is truly fascinating.
Yeah.
I think with this new album, Music to Get Murdered By, it's the best in a while. But like when you're coming off of Kamikaze was the last one, which was crap.
Yeah.
And Revival before that was the worst record he's ever put out.
Absolutely.
And I'll even say this new one, you know, it's sort of forgettable, but it's not obnoxious.
No.
Like I was looking back at the albums he's released, and since Encore, I think it's probably this is his best one since Relapse.
Yeah.
Relapse, the production was a little interesting. He doesn't like it, apparently.
It's because it's very much like...
It's a jokey album.
Yeah, it's a very obnoxious album in places, but there's some tracks on it that are fucking
some
bangers.
Some are great. Crack a
like
Bottle.
3am and Crack a Bottle are really good.
Like Dre's production on it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then you had Recovery, which was just boring.
That was the beginning of the Rihanna shite.
Yeah, like the greatest sin of that album is it's boring. And then you had the bizarrely overpraised, in my opinion, Marshall Mathers LP2. Like I was looking back at the reviews of this album and it's like 5 stars here and 4 stars. Like, who the fuck are you kidding?
It was a tough one because it was... I bet you if those reviewers reviewed it now, they would say very differently, because I was like that when I first heard it. I was like, holy shit, this is him actually returning to something.
Yeah.
But now when I listen to it, I'm like, fucking hell, man, it's stinking.
It's a stinker.
It's really bad in places, but like it beguiles you when you first listen to it, and it's like traps you in this idea of like, oh, remember when Eminem was good?
I felt in the minority by not liking it at the time. I was like, this is crap. This is just what basically happened with Eminem was the first couple albums are interesting because there wasn't nobody really rapped like him at the time.
Yeah,
there was a slight difference to his cadence. There wasn't a sort of imitation of another type of rapper, really.
Yeah,
it was very individual. Whereas when he came back after his what would you call it, sabbatical, it seems very one note, and this new album continues that. It's just, I'm going to rap fast. Technically impressive, but
to a point though. It's like,
yeah,
I mean, because there's diminishing returns when it comes to speed, obviously. Like what, who's the guy that's the really, really fast guy? Tech 9, yeah. Tech 9's really fast, and again, his stuff is more, it's so staccato and so broken up into like machine gun syllables that it sounds like shit.
Yeah,
it doesn't actually sound very good. And like then you get someone like fucking
Fat Joe. I don't know. I pulled a name out of my arse there.
But I was going to say Busta Rhymes.
Oh yeah,
because Busta Rhymes, when he hits his peak, can get really fast, but he always sounds good.
Yeah,
like when he's fast, he sounds good.
Yeah.
Whereas Eminem,
break your neck. Yeah, great.
Eminem is just monotone with the way he delivers stuff when he's going really, really fast.
Yeah, and
it just becomes a monotonous ticking. It's like a bit of percussion, a boring bit of percussion.
Mm-hmm.
It just sounds like someone doing a snare roll, and it's like, oh, whatever. It does. It's not impressive if it sounds like shit.
And it all sounds the same.
Yeah, and it absolutely does. Like, Rap God is almost indistinguishable from that Godzilla track that he goes really, really fast on. Almost indistinguishable in terms of like when he hits his speed, his top speed. Boring, because I've heard it before and it wasn't that impressive when I first heard it.
Yeah, it's like what you like. I mean, what you like with Eminem was and this is just an old man complaining about another old man here. But what was great about the first couple of records, those first three major ones, don't include the debut didn't sell.
Infinity isn't an album; it's a mixtape or something.
Slim Shady, Marshall Mathers, and the Eminem Show. There's a variation in the vocals.
Mm-hmm.
And the production is brash and cartoony, and it was sort of different enough to what was being produced at the time.
Yeah.
And what was great was, with Eminem, you always got that it was a persona.
Mm-hmm.
He had sort of it was quite refreshing at the time because you'd had years of hip hop being about authenticity, and this is the real-realness. And Eminem comes out, and I still think his greatest lyric, sort of meta textual lyric is in Role Model. It's the one that goes, y'all can't even see through the mist. How the fuck can I be white? I don't even exist. It's there's something so like witty and clever about that, and there is no wit or cleverness in this new record.
It's true. He's tried to rejuvenate his persona as Slim Shady or something, hasn't he?
It's a slightly more horrorcore record than we've had in the last couple of years.
But he's not playing the role of Slim Shady. He's just credited the album to Slim Shady, whereas in the first album, he is so embodied in this persona of Slim Shady he isn't there. He's no real. He's removed himself. It's like Death of the Author shit, where it's like he's embodied a character so thoroughly. It's like he's playing a narrative.
There is nothing as funny on this album. I mean, that was what was, it was horrorcore stuff that basically his genre was.
Mm-hmm.
But it was funny and true, and occasionally truly shocking.
Mm-hmm.
So it had multiple interesting aspects to it, but this album has nothing comparatively.
No.
The greatest compliment you can pay this album is it's not the last 3 albums. There's nothing on. I did I guess the kids call it a deep dive these days. I reacquainted myself with those couple of Eminem albums, the first three,
Aye.
and there's nothing as funny on this album as that lyric about throwing someone down the stairs and then throwing them back up them. What song is that? I think it's off the first Marshall Mathers.
I think it is. It's that song where he's talking about get brain damage.
Brain
it's off
damage,
of brain
right.
damage. It's like that whole song is it's nasty and disgusting, but it's like some of the imagery is fucking ridiculous.
The idea of throwing someone up a flight of stairs. You know, like when I was 10 and I listened to it, you don't get how funny that. Now at 30, I'm like, yeah, throwing someone up a flight of stairs is genius.
Oh man, and obviously, the problematic aspects of this album really. They shine equally bright in their obnoxiousness because of how old he is now.
Yeah.
And it's maybe a little bit, we talk about this a lot, we call ourselves old men, but we're not old, it's just we feel old.
Yeah.
Eminem must feel fucking 70 because of all the drugs he's done and stuff like that, and like how much of a mess he was for so long. And it's like, he bodily must feel very strange when he's still out there being like, talking about how he's going to blow up Ariana Grande's concert and stuff like that. It's like, you're a fucking grown man.
Yeah.
It's like, this is dangerous stuff almost, talking about shit like that. It's like uncalled for and unnecessarily shitty.
It's, yeah.
And it's like, it's obnoxious in a way that only, I would actually have said that the horrorcore resurgence with Tyler and stuff like that, even they wouldn't have done that, even though they were into that sort of shock humor shit, and like they were never that obnoxious.
You know, he's an older man. He could have done something more interesting with the horrorcore stuff. You know, this could have been his Nick Cave's murder ballads.
Oh, that's absolutely what he's going for as well.
He could have done something like less indebted to his own history and done something like truly gruesome and darkly funny, like that album would be, but is clearly not sort of like, here's the punchline, here's the punchline, here's the punchline. Just have like something maybe more tonally or atmospherically darkly humorous
and consistent,
and the album's not funny.
The
jokes don't land.
Some of the stuff on Murder Ballads is so like disgusting and so ridiculous that it is funny.
Yeah, it's like Stagger Lee.
Yeah,
it's so funny.
And O'Malley's bar depicting the massacre and stuff like that. It's like, it's ridiculous, but there's something kind of.
So that's what Eminem could have done with this album, but
he doesn't use the Hitchcockian air properly at all, because half the album is him just doing his usual Eminem things and doing Eminem raps about sucking his dick. And people sucking his dick, and his haters sucking his dick, and someone sucking his dick, and that's about it. And then you get like those little interludes where you can hear like a woman dying and screaming, and like Hitchcock doing his little monologues and stuff like that, and you're like, he just chopped up a concept album, or what could have been a concept album, intermittently interspersed with these stupid songs that don't mean anything. And it's like, you've not used this style or this narrative or this aesthetic to its fullest degree. It feels half-baked.
And it's too long.
It's way too long as well.
All Eminem albums, even the classics, they're too long.
Yeah.
But you could put up with them 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Like a 77-minute, Marshall Mathers LP or the Slim Shady LP. At least you're getting good jokes in there.
Yeah.
Some of the tracks might be a bit bloated, a bit stinky, but 20 years down the line, I could have used an album half the length of this, and it would have been better.
Oh yeah.
It's not that it's
not
that it's horrifically bad. It's just overstays its welcome, and it has nothing to say.
Yeah. That is that was our mild gripe as well, but like, I think the actual gripes, I think the real pig stinkers are going to be pretty fucking vicious this month then, so you want to tell us one of your stinkers for this month?
The worst album that I heard this month, absolutely guttural trash is Funeral by Lil Wayne.
Oh God.
Now I don't really know Lil Wayne. The sort of, just by my age, what happened with a lot of hip hop heads is that you sort of fell out of love with a sort of more mainstream, I guess they call it the bling era now, the sort of mid 2000s, and then hip hop, you re-fell in love with it again in the 2010s, and Lil Wayne came to prominence in the period where I wasn't tremendously interested in hip hop, so I don't really have a knowledge of his work or anything. But I thought I'd listen to it because he's very heralded and he's been very influential in terms of the sound of modern mainstream rap just now. He's sort of pop rap, I guess. And I'd heard the first couple of albums are good, so I thought I'll give this a listen. And it's 94 minutes. It's the first song's all right. The first song's okay, but then it just goes on so long. And if the Eminem album is one note, this is like no. This is like fucking every song is sort of this inflated, this sort of nothing trap rap beat, like could have been made on GarageBand in a 15 minutes. Him rapping on the top of it, way too much auto-tune. It's just insufferable. It's yeah.
It sounds like a perfect distillation of everything that's wrong with that kind of. It's everything that we said that made fucking The Big Day bad, but it's actually somehow almost 20 minutes longer.
It's not
it's insane.
It's not as bad as The Big Day.
That's saying something.
By a slight margin. But yeah, it's truly. I just didn't get it, the appeal. First song's alright. It's like okay. The production's fairly interesting, and then I don't know, the drop off is immediate, and it's just, it goes on so long. It's really, and the production's bad. It's just sort of nothing, mid-range, sort of bland trap rap. Yeah, don't like it.
I think that's a real fucking crutch these days, especially, is like just trot out the trap rap vibe to carry an album, and then like, I don't know, expect people to just. Is Lil Wayne banking on people just putting these albums on in the background at parties? Is that it?
Maybe.
Is that literally all his music exists for? Because like, that to me is like, trap rap is what I imagine, like really bargain bucket by the numbers trap rap is what I imagine every single house party and club scene is going to have, like, in the background in movies from now on for the next 20 years.
Yeah, like American high school. Yeah, they got red polystyrene cups for their drinks.
And it used to be like butt rock. It used to be like surfer rock in the 90s and stuff like that in the 2000s.
Sort of bro step.
Yeah. There was that for the 2010s, and now I think like 2020 onwards is going to be nothing but like trap.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Probably
like party trap.
Yeah, because probably I think probably young people aren't listening to it. but sort of Hollywood executives would be like, well, what are young people listening to? And they're like, well, they must still be listening to trap rap.
That was pretty big in the end of the 2010s.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels dated. Despite the fact that it's going for this sort of super modern, whatever. It's just,
again, he's an old guy. Trying to stay relevant. This is going to come up a lot.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of guys trying to desperately cling to their cultural relevance.
Like, do you know, this is a little tidbit I learned about Lil Wayne. You know that program, The Masked Singer?
Yeah.
Right. It's like Bargain Bucket, ITV shit, right?
Yeah.
It's like fucking Z-list singers fucking wearing a hedgehog's head or something, right? And you have to guess who it is. Lil Wayne was on the American one.
Oh.
So like they pulled the fucking hat off or whatever it was, right? It's like, who's under this giant duck? Oh, it's Lil Wayne. Sort of that's where that's his. So I'm not kicking him when he's down.
But I know, I feel kind of bad for him now.
But you know, he's sort of like whatever the American equivalent of ITV is. He's like an ITV rapper.
Oh God, yeah. Okay, I can. That really, really paints a hell of a picture because right away you know just how naff that must be.
At least Little John has not. And by the way, was there? Did you ever listen to? Now there was an album here. This is true where Lil Wayne and Little John did a collaboration album, and they called it Little John Wayne.
Really?
No. But
because they've missed an opportunity there.
Well, I think so. So yeah, ITV terrible trap rap. It's fucking crap. Don't listen to it. It is my
pig stinker of the month.
What about your? Do you have a pig stinker of the month?
I do, and it's one that I can't actually imagine many people will have heard because this band are on the fringes of mattering to anyone at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember listening to them for a little while in the 2000s, and I thought they were fine.
Mm-hmm.
But now they've made a proper pig stinker of the month worthy album. It's Twin Atlantic with Power. It's piss. It's absolute fucking dreck.
So it's a power of piss.
It's a power of shite. It's a power of stinker. It's okay. So the thing about Twin Atlantic was they were born out of the wave of post-Biffy Scottish bands.
Yeah, they're a Scottish band, right?
They're a Scottish band. Th're from Glasgow/Ayrshire. When you're from Ayrshire, everyone just says you're from Glasgow. You're from the Glasgow scene.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they're from Ayrshire. But either way, the guy sings with an obnoxious as fuck Scottish accent, and they made like power punk. They made like power pop punk in the wake of like Biffy going full mainstream.
So post Puzzle, Biffy.
Yeah.
Is it called Puzzle?
Puzzle, yeah. Anything post Puzzle is Biffy at their most mainstream and most digestible, and Twin Atlantic are basically just the Fall Out Boy-ish style of what that is. So it's imagine Fall Out Boy smashed together with Biffy, and you get something that sounds the first exposure I had to them was like it was like an EP, a big EP called Vivarium, and it was actually pretty good.
Okay.
There were some genuinely decent tracks on it, and I was like, okay, this band might be something to look out for because I kind of like the sound that they're going for. I don't really like his voice too much, but I got used to it. Then they followed up with an LP called Free, I think, and it fucking sucked. And I was like, okay, fair enough. Who knows where they'll go from here? Maybe they'll do something else. They released another one I didn't hear, and then I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this new album a go and see where they are now as a band. Where they are now as a band is where a lot of bands that are floundering in the world of rock go, and that is they've just decided to put a bunch of synth in it.
So that sort of retro 80s,
kinda
Stranger
more
Times
aesthetic. Did you hear what Mumford & Son sounded like when they gave up on the banjo and shit like that?
Of course I didn't.
Mumford & Son realised that their fucking trust fund Wurzel gimmick wasn't working anymore.
Which one was Mumford?
The largest one. And that was all of his sons, was the smaller ones. Why didn't the largest Mumford simply eat the other Mumfords? The thing about Mumford & Son was that first album captivated a lot of people because no one had heard anything so twee before. And then
Everybody's More rediscovered the guitar with that album.
The guitar / banjo / double bass / stomping your feet for percussion.
It was like the folk Maroon 5 for Everybody's More.
Yeah, that absolutely does actually sum it up.
Take that, Mumford.
Speaking of which, have you heard that new fucking Maroon 5 song where they just rip off Pachelbel's Bell's Canon?
No.
And it's just that, but a shit pop song.
Right.
It's terrible. I've heard it. You can't escape it. Every cunt's listening to it these days. It's fucking god awful.
Right.
Just when you thought Maroon 5 couldn't get any worse. But so basically what's happened with Twin Atlantic is they went, you know what? We have nothing to say as a post-punk kind of post-rock, not post-rock, but like a punk rock band.
Yeah.
We've got nothing to say, and we don't think this guitar stuff's working out anymore. Let's just layer a bunch of lazy synth in it to get a bunch of like millennial whoops in.
Okay.
And get a bunch of like the stuff that they think sells in the charts these days. So big swelling synths and like lots of huge choruses and stuff like that. Absolutely trying to appeal to the broadest demographic possible and stay young and relevant. And what results is something that might as well not exist, because when I was listening to it, it's like I had a fucking outer body experience or something, because it was just nothing. It was like listening to white noise. It's just the most fucking boring version of music that you can imagine. And that's that. So Twin Atlantic, well done. You released an EP a couple of years ago, like 10 fucking years ago at this rate, that was actually okay, and you've done nothing since. So well done.
Pig stinker of the month.
Wow. You know, we missed an opportunity there. When you said it was like white noise, we missed it. Well, we missed the opportunity to do our patented drone metal joke, and we like drone metal.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I want to have outer body experiences brought on by white noise, but no, this kind.
You got to get a sun reference in every episode.
Honestly, I thought for a second you were going to go down a route of like the Twin Atlantic perfectly embodies the idea of white people music. It's just white noise. It's just absolutely like middle class white little fucking teenage bop shit. But
yeah,
honestly, drone metal of
drone
any
metal.
variety would be better than this album.
Mumford and Sons is sort of white noise, right?
Oh, absolutely is.
Like definitely white, and there's no.
It's the whitest band
That's the
around.
whitest noise there is. Yeah.
So, speaking of obnoxious white guys trying to cling to cultural relevance,
check out that link.
Let's talk about that fucking Green Day album, the father of all whatevers. What was it called?
I think this might be a very special episode. I think this might have 2 pig stinkers.
A double stinker
month.
2 oinkers right up.
2 oinkers.
Father of all motherfuckers.
The longest 26 minutes of my fucking life.
It is torturous, isn't it? It's holy shit. Right from the bat as well. It's obnoxious right from the fucking first 4 seconds of the album. You hate it. I hated it instantly.
Oh god, it's so bad. And here's the thing, it doesn't even sound like them.
Oh, absolutely
like, what are they doing?
I didn't even recognise that as Billy Joel's voice.
Yeah.
Like that, it doesn't sound like him at all.
What are they trying to do with it?
I just realised I called him Billy Joel. Billy Joe Armstrong, isn't it? It's not Billy Joel, it's Billy Joe Armstrong.
Yeah, is that right? I always got that confused.
Yeah.
You know that Billy Joe and Billy Joel, they did a collaborative album called Little John Wayne. So that's why. Anyway, yeah, it's a terrible album. It's like, what the fuck is that? It's like one of those train wrecks where you're like, I don't even understand the thinking behind this. Like something like the Metallica and Lou Reed album, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a train wreck, right? But you get the understanding of it. Lou Reed is a pretentious wank and he's like, well, I'm going to do this weird metal album about prostitution in the 1930s. So you're like, at least as difficult as that album sounds and as poorly produced as that album is, there's some sort of artistic intent there.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, it's a failed experiment. Fair enough. You can't really bag on Metallica for like we're going to try something slightly esoteric.
Yeah.
Whereas what the fuck was the thinking with this album? You listen to it and you go like, I don't understand any of the impulses that would have led you to this.
Some of it sounds like fucking like trying to do a modern interpretation of like some fucking rockabilly shit going on and like doo-wop kind of nonsense. Like
it's like, here's a Misfits album,
yeah,
sorta, but it's got no sense of humor to it. It's got no fucking hell.
It's just it is painful to listen to because it is absolutely the epitome of an embarrassing trying to. It's like, hello fellow kids. It's absolutely like, you are trying to be culturally relevant and edgy in a weird way, because they called it the father of all motherfuckers and it's bleeped, and like the ads were all like pure uncut rock and it's like a fucking line of coke and stuff, and it's like, yous are not fucking edgy or cool or interesting, you're old fucking men.
It's like, it screams of, you know, like hey, my kids are all grown up and left the house, but I'm still cool.
It's a truly embarrassing thing to listen to, and perplexing in the way that the musical direction that they've gone in. Admittedly, not listened to the Uno Dos Tres one that they released, so I don't really know what their sound is these days. But I remember 21st Century Breakdown being an absolute honker.
I didn't listen to that one,
and
I don't remember.
I didn't hate American Idiot. I thought it was okay. It was very good.
It was okay.
It was very good at the time.
Yeah,
like it was a spectacle at the time, and like, because it had the big Jesus Suburbia 7-minute long thing, and
they're
like,
not even going for like a punk pop sound with us. Like,
oh no,
it's so sort of messy and cluttered, and like,
it is genuinely the most desperate sounding album I've heard in a long time. Of like, trust us guys, we've still got it. We've got something. We don't know what it is anymore, but we've got it.
The only reason that I hate it less than the Lil Wayne album is because you could put 10 of these albums together and it would last less time than Lil Wayne. But it is truly a terrible album.
Yeah, it is absolutely 3, 2, 1.
Peg Stinker of the Month.
Did you hear that record, the I Disagree by Poppy?
I did. I thought it was weird.
It's weird, right? So she's like a YouTube sort of,
yeah, like
character, sort of weird. I guess it's sort of like, it's like a mix of bubblegum pop and grindcore.
Yeah.
Is the album. It's sort of, it's weirdly works.
It does.
At
it
points.
does. It has that vibe of like baby metal, like the Japanese pop metal thing. It has that kind of vibe going on. But when she goes hard, she goes really hard. Yeah,
I was surprised by how much I liked it.
Yeah.
It's a weird one.
It's messy though. Like a lot of that sound. I get that that's what she's going for. I get that that's what like the persona was leaning into, that idea of like she transitioned from like pure pop, electro pop, to like weird like metal pop stuff. Yeah. But like, it makes her albums really hard to listen to because you get like whiplash the whole time. It's like aesthetic whiplash going on because you're like, oh fuck, there's so much going on, but it's very
disjointed.
Yeah.
And sometimes that rubbing up against each other works in terms of a juxtaposition.
Yeah.
The actual pop record that I liked this month was Seeking Thrills by Georgia.
Okay.
It's sort of like electro pop, sort of like emotionally vulnerable electro pop type thing. Like the beats are good, her singing's great. It's I would highly recommend it. It's very sort of singer-songwritery, sort of like Charlie XCX or something like that. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, there's actually I'm gonna sort of do them in ascending order.
Yeah.
Of like ones from sort of mediocre to genuinely kind of interesting.
Yeah.
At the bottom of the pile, there is Sepultura with Quadra.
Never heard it. Yeah.
Did you know that Sepultura still exists?
I do now.
It was surprising to me when it popped up, and I was like, oh yeah, Sepultura post Cavaleras.
They've been gone now for a long time.
Yeah, it's been 10 plus years.
Maybe even longer.
Yeah, because like I think the last one was 2006 was when Igor left.
Right.
On Dante 12 was the last one he drummed on.
I don't even remember the last couple of albums. Like, obviously you remember Biotech.
Chaos AD.
Chaos AD. Chaos AD, Beneath the Remains, and Roots are all like classics, thrash metal classics. And then anything since then I have heard, but I'm like,
it's the kind of thing where I like to be blindsided by these things sometimes when it's like, oh fuck, that band still exists and they're still putting stuff out, let's give it a go. And Quadra is not, it's the same, it's just more of the same. It's exactly what you expect from Sepultura without any of the original members, really. It's heavy, it's still pretty technical in places, but it will not blow you away by any means. It's just very standard fare. All of their albums since the Cavaleras kind of left, though, are all concept albums.
Are they?
Yeah, Dante 12 was Dante's Inferno and Paradiso and stuff like that. It was based around that. And then, like, the album after that was entirely based around the Clockwork Orange. It was called Alex, as in the main character.
God, have I heard any of these fucking albums?
I don't think you have, because, like, I mean, I stopped listening after Roots. And like then I was like, I dipped my toe here and there, and I never liked any of their stuff. But like,
we'd seen them live at some point.
We did, yeah.
When Derek was, he's still the lead singer, right?
Yep, yeah, he has been since like 2001 or something, 2000.
So we'd seen him at that point, and I maybe heard whatever the album was that he was first on, maybe.
I can't remember what the hell that was called. Maybe Arise or something.
Yeah, but aye, maybe something like that.
Yeah, we definitely heard them after that album, but maybe before Dante 12. Oh no, there was an album in between called Roarback. We might have heard them on that.
Aye, maybe aye.
Because that was the one they did that U2 cover, Bullet the Blue Sky.
Oh aye,
and they played that at the gig, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
and that was actually good. I like that. It's a good cover.
That was a good cover, yeah.
Because that's a great song. That's actually a pretty good song by U2, weirdly enough. I actually don't hate that song.
Oh, fair.
But like, yeah, like it's just fucking, I've spent way too long talking about it already. Sepultura are still existing somehow, and they're still pumping out music. It just belongs to that same sort of crew of like, did you know Killswitch Engage are still making music? Did you know that fucking 36 Crazy Fists are still around? Lo and behold, Sepultura are still making music. Fucking Static X are still making music, and one of them's fucking dead. Wayne Static's fucking dead, and he's making music. What a world we live in.
How's that?
We're truly in the future now. We've got zombie Wayne Static making music.
Fucking hell, man.
So the next one in my list of random ones was Algiers. There is no year.
Oh yeah, I heard this one. Yeah,
this was a really decent album. Amazing vocal performances, really, really solid, like kind of soul influenced kind of
it's like
rock.
Soul punk sort of almost.
Mostly soul driven, because a lot of it is very focused around his voice, and that's totally fine because he's got a great voice. And like the biggest problem is the first track, Dispossession, is the best track on the album, and everything else is diminishing returns.
Yeah, I'd go with you on that. Yeah,
so it's great, and then it starts to wane, and then on second listen, it's like, oh yeah, it's mostly a one-track album.
Yeah.
So it's not terrible. It's got a nice vibe, and like his voice is great, but it isn't going to blow you away.
The album beforehand, I can't remember its name, but that's great. Like the previous album, I can't, whatever it's called, is genuinely great. So it's just like a good. It's like a good record following a great record. You're like,
It's always a shame when that happens, when bands can't top themselves again after, like, because some bands just get their fucking, they spooge all their fucking talent out in one album kind of thing. But the third one I want to talk about, and the most interesting of the ones that are just sort of breaking even, a guy called Obongiar.
Oh right, okay.
Which Way Is Forward? He actually, the only reason I know about him is he appeared on the last Danny Brown album. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, okay.
He's on the title track.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like very like Afrobeat, spoken wordy kind of stuff.
Right.
It's just a bunch of short little tracks, got a nice sort of pace to it, a nice mood. The voice is great, and like his sort of performances are amazing. It's interesting, but it's not something I would go back to and listen to multiple times.
Yeah.
It's more just an admirable thing because of like the amount of like fire and sort of gravitas his voice and performance has.
Yeah.
It's not very musically diverse either. It's quite it's short though. It's a short little experience, so like even though it doesn't change up a lot musically, it's still compelling enough that you'll be able to work your way through it. It's decent, and I thought it was kind of out of left field. It only popped up on my Spotify, I think, because of the Danny Brown link.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed my listens though. I thought it was pretty good.
Fair enough. I really liked those two metal albums that I've heard since the start of the year. I thought were really cool. One of them is a bit of sort of death doom. I think they're from Sweden. It's a band called Convent, and the album's called Puritan Misogynism.
Okay.
So it's like it's a group of, I think it's 4 Swedish ladies.
Okay.
And it's just the sort of really cool atmospheric sort of doom influenced black metal or black. I get so in terms of the delineation of metal, you know, is it black and doom or is it death doom or is it what? I'll go with death doom. So it's got the sort of guttural death metal vocals, and I can't remember the name of the lead singer, but she is really frightening vocally. And it's just like if you like that sort of thing, it's cool. It's well made. It's got some interesting ideas. It doesn't stick to the one sound. The musicianship is really interesting. The other metal record that I really liked, and I preferred this one, just because it made me nostalgic, Reaper, and the album is called Unholy Nordic Noise, and that's what you get. It's sort of the Ron seal of album titles. It's just fucking great. It's like pure 1984 fucking Barfary record or something like that. Like first wave Norwegian black metal. There's not a lot of synths. It's scuzzy. It's nasty. The vocal, you know, it's just. It made me feel so nostalgic for when I first got into that sort of music, and it's great. It's just goes a mile a minute. It thrashes. It's a bit punky, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's fucking great. It's really good.
I've only got 2 more albums to talk about, and both of them are genuine contenders for album of the month.
Oh, all right.
So, fuck it. You know what? I'm just gonna call it in the ring, and I'm going to say Denzel Curry and Kenny Beats Unlocked.
Hey, that's a good record.
Is not my album in the month, but it's very, very, very good.
Yeah, it's very good.
And it belongs in that camp of Kids See Ghosts levels of like, you have got in and you got out in like fucking 18 minutes or something, and you dropped some really fucking fire tracks and had a lot of fun with it. The production's incredible. Denzel, I never really thought much of Denzel until, weirdly enough, he did that cover of Bulls on Parade.
Yeah, I was the same.
And he comes across as a cunt that cares so much about music, and like clearly that was like a moment that his life had been leading up to, doing a cover of Rage Against the Machine with a band. And it was like so cool to see him that excited and get that and and I was like, man, I can get on with this cunt. And it was like, then this album, as good as his flow is and as good as he is as a rapper, some of his lyrics don't really resonate. They're like kind of, a lot of stuff just sort of feels like, I don't know, like half-baked. I don't know if maybe he's just not the best lyricist. It doesn't quite land, but everything else was excellent.
I think this album especially, I think it was probably made in a day.
Yeah.
You know, they do the you ever seen the Kenny Beats show The Cave?
No, I've been meaning to watch it.
Yeah, his episode's great. And I think probably this might not be the case, but I think this album was made just with them fucking about in the studio for a day or two, I think. But yeah, I really like it as well.
I think maybe when I look back on this, I'm going to think I made the wrong call, and this probably should have been the album of the month.
No, I know what you're picking.
But it's a very good little album.
It is good.
Technically EP, whatever. I don't want to make that distinction anymore because Kids See Ghosts can be classed as a full fucking release. This can be classed as a full release. It's excellent. It's really, really fun hip hop that because there's no fat on it at all.
No, it's very lean.
You get through it so fast, and every track's great.
And the beats, to talk about Kenny Beats.
Yeah, Kenny Beats.
The beats are sort of more indebted to sort of glitchy electronica than the typical sort of hip hop beat that we get these days. It's interesting. It's really weird and strange and it's like every song's a fucking minute and a half. It goes a mile a minute, and then it's done, and you're like, that was great.
Yeah, when you're bogged down by bigger, longer, more concept-driven stuff or complicated music, it's just nice to have something that's not complicated. Sometimes it's just fucking fun and dumb.
Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah. There was the most recent album I've heard is a sort of a really interesting, cool bit of sort of sophisticated pop, whatever you want to call it, sophisticated pop. It's sort of like a take on sort of lounge music,
adult contemporary.
It's an album by Destroyer, and it's called Have We Met?
Okay.
And it's just fucking great. He put out an album, I think about 2011 or something, called Kaput, and it's I think he started out as more punky, and then he sort of started incorporating a sort of slight cheese factor of sort of like sophisticated sort of French 1960s music.
Okay.
And this album has a lot of that. It's really funny. The his lyricism is really very clever. It's very funny. And the tracks are varied enough. And it's got a real bite to it, like an edge, like a sort of sarcastic sort of tone to his voice that just makes it, It's just it's another one of those just like really enjoyable listen. I would highly, highly recommend it. It's pretty cool. The only other thing that I can talk about before my album of the month, it technically came out at the end of 2019 December, but we missed it.
Yeah.
This is, get ready for this, everybody. This is Mogadisco, Dancing Mogadishu (Somalia 1972 to 1991). This is a compilation of Somalian disco and funk music from before the Civil War, and it's fucking great. It's just crazy as fuck, like electro disco, like real down and dirty fucking grubby disco, and sort of African instrumentation, and it's just fucking joyous. It's so great, and I really, it's really good that there are record labels out there going to the archives of national broadcasting companies in Somalia, war-torn Somalia, and then getting these little gems that nobody's heard in 30-40 years and just like putting them out and go like, here you go, here's something you didn't know that you needed in your life. Here's weird, crazy as fuck disco music from Somalia in the 70s and 80s, and it's just fucking great. So yeah, there's my little weird one.
Okay.
But yeah.
So My album of the month is HMLTD's The West of Eden.
It's a good album. It's very good.
What a fucking 1-2 punch right out of the gate. Those two tracks are fucking phenomenal.
Like I heard you text me and said this is really good, and then I listened to it and it won me in the first song. And then the second song is like you say, like a 1-2 punch. And you're just like, this is fucking great. This is so good.
The guy's got away with words. Like some fucking really, really witty little things here and there. And like I very much am in tune with the sentiment of we are living in the last days of Western civilization. Yeah. We are doomed because of our own hubris, and every single day it seems to get a little bit worse.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I totally echo the sentiments of the album. The music is all over the fucking shop.
It's like glam rock, like real scuzzy punk at points.
Yeah,
like some of the album legitimately sounds drunk.
Yeah, there's little moments where it does have that vibe, and like
a slight edge to it, like if you're on the street and there's somebody drunk and you don't know what exactly they're gonna do. You're like, where could this go? That's the vibe you get off the album.
I suppose that perfectly embodies the sort of the boozy, coked up kind of 60s vibe that a lot of their performances trying to give off as well. They're like really, really playing that role perfectly. Did you in places get the fucking vibe of like, this sounds so much like Strange House era horrors?
Yeah,
it's so like it, isn't it? Where it's like, that kind of goth rock vibe from like the early mid 2000s that was kind of coming back and then just sort of died a death.
Yeah,
because of his voice and because of how weirdly, like, I don't know, eerie and like coy the music can be.
Yeah.
And like how sleazy it can be. It actually comes across as kind of witchy and eerie and gothy. It plays with so many genres, and like the fucking, I must admit though, that the Ballad of Calamity Joe or Jack or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The third track,
it's a J name.
Yeah, the third track where it's just like it goes full spaghetti western shit.
Oh yeah, very Sergio Leone.
Yeah, my heart dropped because I was like, oh fuck. It's Whiplash. I was like, oh fuck, what is this? I don't get this. But then it segues into To the Door, which, I mean, that song apparently has been around for a while, but again, I wouldn't know because I didn't listen to their stuff before. But and then it really, really integrates that sort of Sergio Leone kind of spaghetti western sound into a fucking punk banger.
Oh, it's so good.
So it's
this is how, you know, like really, really good punk. And even the elements of pop in there, like Green Day could fucking listen to this album and go like, well, we should just hang up our hats.
And they were never the true embodiment of what real British punk really felt like.
Exactly.
They were stupid Americana punk and the like butt rock stuff. Like Green Day wouldn't know fucking punk if it slapped them in the tit.
This is great, this record. Yeah.
But there's another likeness that I want to bring up because again it struck me like a bolt of lightning. The song Where's Joanna?
Oh yeah, that's so good.
It sounds so much like a fucking Franz Ferdinand track on Coke. Because it's got the angular guitar,
so
like that kind of fucking vibe from like that.
How good is it to be excited by guitar music?
Yeah, it's insane when you're like, oh, they're actually trying to make it eclectic and interesting and diverse.
Not
and
just doing we'll get, you know, nostalgia for the sake of nostalgia. We'll get some sense on it. You know, like that. You heard that Stroke single.
Both of them are very humdrum. There's something very melancholic and dry about both of them. It's but like I don't know if that's just, I didn't hate them though.
No, I didn't hate them. I just sort of meh.
Yeah, it's just more
whereas what we've been missing, you know, especially with guitar-led music, is you just need a little bit of angular again, and yes, fucking hell.
I want that kind of post-punky, like disco influenced, like you always compared fucking Franz Ferdinand to Gang of Four.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I want that kind of post-punk stuff coming back. Like I love that sound, and fucking Happy Meal Limited really fucking go ham on it in places, and then in places they're using, there's a fucking track on this, in fact 2 tracks, but there's tracks on this that use Japanese Vocaloid synthesizers. Like there's Japanese Vocaloid vocals alongside some of the most beautiful string arrangement I've ever heard in a fucking album. They're shoulder to shoulder, and it works.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's so weird and cool. Like, I did not expect to hear Japanese Vocaloid stuff, and that whole thing to me brings up that idea of like, is this a kind of weird way of juxtaposing that sort of the beautiful idea of like string or orchestration and stuff like that as a Western trope, but the Vocaloid stuff is like a very heavy Japanese trope, and
maybe.
So it's like the East is sort of making its way into the West and replacing it, kind of thing. Like, is there something going on there? I can't tell because I don't know how deep the theme really runs, but it didn't matter because it sounded amazing.
Yeah.
So and that sort of thing actually comes up a little bit in the album, book club album that I want to talk about as well.
You've got a thesis on this, right?
I don't want to oversell it, but I have written paragraphs of stuff that I might have to do verbatim. But
fair enough.
But like this album is a real mixed bag, but it's a mixed bag that I love.
Yeah, I love it. It's great. It was my album of the month, and then I heard something last week that just pipped it.
Okay.
I'm gonna get super fucking nerdy about this fucking album. This album is so good. It's a bit of electronica. It's by Beatrice Dillon. It's called Workaround.
Okay.
And this is her first proper full length. I think she had a mini album a couple of years ago, and she's sort of been doing the rounds and making a name for herself. What this is effectively is it's a sort of quite a rigid, quite artificial sounding, very robotic album, but the production on it is the most interesting electronic production I've heard in a long time. And although, you know, you might think how rigid it is and like robotic sounding, it's going to be lacking in emotion or joyousness, but somehow it works. Basically, how it works is that she has produced the album, and then she's had collaborators come in and used bits of their instrumentation. So the instrumentation's all over the place. You got like sort of tabla music and sort of steel guitar, and it's very sort of international and very eclectic.
Okay.
But what really marks the album out is the tunes are killer. They're fucking great. They're so good. But what really makes it different to a lot of electronic production that goes on these days is within electronic music at the moment, there seems to be a tendency of having a lot of reverb, having a lot of, you know, sort of, or maybe even fake reverb, so that it has a more sort of lived in crackly quality.
Right.
You know, like months ago when we talked about classics by a Model 500, it's got a sort of crackly quality to the techno there, but that's because of the era it was made, and it was analog synthesizers, and you can hear the buttons get pushed and everything. And a lot of electronic music production these days will ape that sound.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's maybe got a warm, nostalgic quality potentially, but this album doesn't do that. It's got little to no reverb whatsoever. It sounds very computer based. It's very sparse, and it's very clinical almost. You can hear that it's been produced. You're not in any illusion that this is a jam that's been made. But what she does with the space in that production is really interesting. So you've got this sort of almost empty space that she fills with these really interesting samples and really cool vocals from all over the place. You've got like African vocals in there, and you've got sort of strange Middle Eastern sort of style instrumentation, and it's just fascinating. And this is where I get super nerdy, right? the beats seem to be at 150 beats per minute.
Right.
Which, like, in the dance music people out there will be like, what? That's a strange range to predominantly base your album around. Like, how, to give you an idea, if you're not into this, house music typically, sort of classic Chicago house music, the quite soulful stuff will usually be in 115 to 130, so it's a slightly slower pace.
Yeah.
Compare that to something like drum and bass, which is like 160 to 180, GABA upwards of that, right? and techno will sit somewhere in the middle. It's about 120 to 140. So with it being 150, it's sort of neither very fast and it's neither very slow. It's sort of almost a weird slow fast or fast slow. And it doesn't sound like any of the very strict genres that you get within dance music. And it's fascinating. It's the best production I've heard in a long time on electronic music. And if I've not sold it, it's because I've got so geeky on it. The tunes are fucking killer. Every fucking song is a banger. It slaps. It goes in so many different directions that if you're a real mark for dance music, this is going to be your album of the year for dance music. It's so good.
Okay.
It's great. So that would be my album of the month.
Excellent. So this month, or rather last month, I asked you to listen to Hall & Oates' Abandoned Luncheonette.
Yep.
To try and see what I see when I look at Hall & Oates. Is like, it's a genuinely pleasant experience, but I wonder if it'll gel at all.
Yeah, no, I would go along with the most part with a lot of your sentiments about this album. I need to get up the lyrics though for a certain song, but we'll get into that in a moment. I have a real soft spot for sort of like ridiculously well produced fluff. Like this is too well produced for what it is, right? This is sort of like the most 70s thing ever produced. It's sort of like, I guess I think they call it yacht music now.
Yeah,
you know, like,
yeah, I could see that.
Like really overproduced, like to the nth degree, like so overproduced. 70s soft rock pop, I've got a real soft spot for. This album would be the dictionary definition of guilty pleasure. It's fluff, right? It is total fluff, but it's the most well executed fluff that I've ever heard. If I had to get, like, the fans of the show have been annoyed that I haven't used a food analogy in a couple of episodes. But if I had to use a food analogy for this is like candy floss. It's sort of like almost not there. And, you know, the memory of it on your tongue doesn't last very long. But whilst you're consuming this candy floss, it's like, oh, that's nice. Too much of it, however, you can start to get a bit sick. So let's get into the actual songs. So the first song is When the Morning Comes, and this is the most 70s fucking sound thing I've like. The singing on it, they're singing throughout the album mostly this sort of duetting falsetto is gorgeous. It is so gorgeous, and this album really sets out what you're gonna hear. Sort of light percussion in the background, very sort of like you know, like Marks and Spencer's food advert sort of thing. But hidden, sort of buried in the production, is sort of weird, tumultuous things going on in the background. Like, you got these sort of warped synths on this first song, and it's sort of like slightly discordant with the sort of easygoing vibe. It's sort of weird. It's like, oh, there's something going on with this album. It never overpowers it. It never, you know, it's not like you're getting a glimpse into some weird sort of underground music going on in the background, but there's definitely a weird sort of quality to some of the production, and that sort of sets out its plate with the first song. Second song is Had I Known You Better Then. The bass line on this is fucking amazing. It's so sort of like, it's just the most sort of 70s. That's what I'm gonna basically say that for most of the songs. It's the most 70s thing ever. The falsetto again is gorgeous. It's a winning formula, clearly. And then you have this sort of weird, once again in the background, this weird sort of distant country and western slide guitar, like, that's great, man. And then the piece de resistance, we get into the third album, and this is who sells the record. You have this, the third song's called Las Vegas Turnaround, where you have the first instance of sexy saxophone music come in. For the amount of cheese for this song and the album at large, the production is just brilliant. Just like sexy saxophone throughout the album, always a winner. She's Gone follows, and this sort of has a sort of shimmery quality to it, electro piano, lots of woos in the background. There's a lot of woos on the album. There's a lot of woo sort of stuff, and it's silly, but it's a guilty pleasure. It's really fun. That one, She's Gone, is more of the ballad. Once again, the sexy saxophone is a killer, and then you've got this weird discordant sound in the background. I don't know what it is, but it's like, what was that? Sort of this, you know what I mean? It's like a descending sort of, why would you put that? There's some sort of weird choices with the production. It's like, why would you pick that?
It's why I've always been very vocal with my pressing of, like, there's an element of that era of Hall & Oates that almost has a little bit of a proggy vibe. Because they were coming up at the same time as a lot of the prog bands. There's a little element of it. They can kind of get on board with the idea of, like, lace and synth and like doing weird stuff with it.
And for the most part, the mixes, and especially She's Gone, it should be a total mess, but somehow it works. Then we get into, so the first half of the album I really do enjoy, and then the second half of the album, there's a couple of things that I'm not as keen on. I'm Just a Kid, Don't Make Me Feel Like a Man is the most 70s thing for the wrong reasons. Little Girl, What's Your Name? It's just no. And what I wasn't keen on this song, because it is the most Flight of the Conchords song on the whole album, and I couldn't take it seriously. It's just like a spoof of one of these songs. 2 minutes in the bass is all right, but yeah, it's sort of that sort of style of yacht music or whatever has been parodied so much. And for the beginning of the album, it works, and it's just sort of like well-produced 70s pop. But this song, I'm just a kid, Don't Make Me Feel Like a Man, just, it's like, it is like the worst excesses of that type of music. And it just is a Flight of the Conchords song, so I couldn't take it seriously whatsoever. Then we have the album, the title track, Abandoned Luncheonette, which has a sort of silky piano harp, which is very lovely, more sexy sax music. But so it sort of gets back on point with the album after the last one I wasn't keen on. But the rhyming couplets are so bad that they are adorable. I don't really concentrate on the lyrics a lot when I listen to albums, but these, right, so here we go. I've got a few here. She was 20 when the diner was a baby. He was the dishwasher, busy in the back, his hands covered with gravy. Black hair and wavy. Brown teen slick, a pot cleaning dandy. He was young and randy. It's so, some of the fucking, it's so bad that is quite funny. It's adorable.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. There was another one. What was it? No, I think that was the piece de resistance. Yeah, but the oh no, God, that's right. Listen to this. This doesn't even rhyme, right? They sat in. This is how the song begins, right? They sat in an abandoned luncheonette, sipping imaginary cola and drawing faces in the tabletop dust. His voice was rusty from the years as a sergeant on This Man's Army. They were old and crusty. Like, for fuck's sake. It's so like the song's fine,
yeah,
but it's so like the last song before that suffered from sounding like a Flight of the Conchords song. But this one is almost so stupid it wouldn't be a comedy song. Lady Rain is after this, and this is probably the most interesting song production wise, and the music is slightly more progressive, and the percussion is really quite interesting, and the guitar gets pretty thrashy, almost sort of like 70s focus, sort of like chick-chang-chang sort of thing. And the cello when it comes in, that's a fucking killer groove. Laughing Boy is next, and this is sort of like a piano led quite Elton John type ballad. It's probably the most sincere song on the album, thus making it the least entertaining. Even the sexy saxophone that comes in is too self-important. So I'm not keen on that one. And then it ends with Every Time I Look at You, which is sort of like porno funk, blaxploitation. It then turns into a banjo hoedown. It goes on for about 7 minutes, and somehow they won me over. So yeah, a real just a guilty pleasure of an album. I really did enjoy it. I don't know if it would be on my rotation.
No.
But yeah, cheese and candy floss combined, it's fucking great. But in moderation.
Yeah, even as like a person who enjoys Hall & Oates, like I don't go back and listen to them often, and I very rarely listen to an album in its entirety.
Like if I was steaming, I would be like, this is my jam when I'm drunk.
Your drunk album,
yeah,
the one that you learn all the lyrics for just to sing when you're drunk.
It could be,
but yeah, there's a lot of camp and fun to it, and like
it's a fun record.
A little bit more dynamically interesting, musically interesting than a lot of stuff around its era.
Yeah, I think
especially
so.
in its genre, it's doing a little bit more than a lot of other bands would. So like, yeah, I think you're totally right in terms of like everything about it screams nasty 70s cheesy shit. And you need to take it in small doses.
But yeah, I loved it. It's great. Outside of those 2, maybe 3 songs, yeah. Now, I'd given you this album, which is Floral Shop by Macintosh Plus. And I'd given you it because I'd been reading a lot about the philosophies behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And I, when I first heard it all those years ago, were like, it's okay. And then I suddenly got it. So it was more of a philosophical challenge, I guess, than an album. I was like, what? Listen to this. Am I crazy? Can you hear certain things in this that I can now hear? So I will now hand the floor over to John, who I think you've got a dissertation that you're going to read.
I've got a mini thesis here on Macintosh Plus's Floral Shop from 2011.
Okay.
So this is literally just a verbatim reading of what I wrote.
Go.
After a monumental 7 listens.
7, is that the most you've ever?
Yep. Most I've ever listened to anything for a BoK club, because I needed to try and parse it
Yeah.
every single time. I needed to like try and understand it a little bit more and break it down in its constituent parts a little bit more. But saying that, I've not done a track by track.
Oh no.
It's purely a philosophical stance.
Go for it.
And a criticism in one.
Well,
So,
go for it, yeah.
another in a long list of Vectroid's musical personae, and the Vaporwave album of note. Eamon presented this as a philosophical question as much as an album review, and I can see why. Musically, it isn't that complicated. A lot of the songs boil down to just being aggressively slowed down versions of sampled songs, chopped and screwed, throw in some funky time signatures and some distortion, and you've got yourself a Vaporwave masterclass. That isn't to say it isn't captivating. It puts you into a mood and really does conjure images in your head, and it feels like more of an existential nightmare or social commentary than a musical journey, which is just fine. I don't know how to feel about this record, although it is a musically shallow experience. The aesthetic choices and genuinely sort of challenging stance on nostalgia gave me a lot to think about. Is it just an album of chopped and screwed songs that Vectroid likes from that era? Or is it a thesis statement, a sort of postmodern ironic attack against honest, tragic nostalgia? I could read it one or two ways. It could be an honest but more robust kind of nostalgia that isn't necessarily about wanting to return to some intangible period of joy and purity, or a lamenting of a lost identity, but more of an honest appreciation of music and a weary understanding that the relentless march of time and capitalism makes fools of us all. Or it could be a critique of that sort of performative nostalgia that so many people partake in, the sort of nostalgia that big business often uses to ply you with new things to buy. It does in some ways come across as a swipe at this current boring trend of using the sights and sounds of that period, and even back when it was released in 2011, is and was so parodied and aped and idealized by so many people that it's become abstract and warped. It's a true representation of the obnoxious form of nostalgia and a twisted effigy of time and culture stored in rose-tinted aspic. It's sort of tragic to care so much about these things in an honest and unironic way. The artwork suggests the latter, as it can only really be read in one way. A bust of Helios, the Greek god of the sun, mixed with 90s aesthetic mint green Japanese text and pink and black checkerboard with a weird JPEG of a cityscape, is a consciously obnoxious shotgun blast of aesthetic tropes of 90s style, with a piece of fine art placed right next to it in stark contrast, the epitome of what people would consider Western ideal art. Is it a snide attempt to make a clear statement that our disposable, noxious-looking recent history looks even more pathetic and childish next to the glory of antiquity? Maybe. Either that or it's just a meme, and ultimately it doesn't matter. If it's just a little exercise in aesthetics and sound, and that the artist appreciates turned into a genre-defining record, well, that's just fine. And if it's a stab at the pointless pandering nature of nostalgia and the toxic, culturally vapid vice grip of capitalism and consumerism, then that's cool too. Either way, it's a great thing that I grew to like a lot. I lean more to the cynical side. I enjoy it a lot more as a critique of something, but it doesn't have to be.
And 420 is a banger.
It really is.
It's yeah, that's well cool. All right.
So yeah, as a musical experience, it is very much just about. It is absolutely what the meme images always depict.
Oh yeah.
It's fucking Bimmy from Arthur putting on the headphones and just drifting away kind of thing. You just get into it and you lose yourself in this weird, mellow, warped kind of vibe and stuff like that. It's definitely not, but as I said, it's not challenging. Necessarily. I mean, it can be a little bit weary in places. And it is kind of a weary album from its, like, I'd say.
It's sort of in the production of it.
I genuinely think it is a stance on a kind of a warped idea of nostalgia and what it does to people and like where capitalism, consumerism is leading us.
Yeah, that's what I got out of it. Yeah,
and it's and it is so effective. I could genuinely sort of, it makes you think immediately of a Floridian mall. You can just imagine walking through a fucking shitty, bombed out mall in Florida, and you can hear dancing fantasy, because there's like fucking 6 dancing fantasy tracks sampled on this album. You can hear dancing fantasy playing from like a Radio Shack somewhere off in the distance, and you're just walking and enjoying the disgusting like white, off-white lighting of a tiled mall.
Do you know that theory of empty spaces, or like, or I think they call them what do they call them? I think they call them like nowhere zones.
Yeah.
So they're sort of architecture that is housing for you moving between places.
Okay, yeah.
So like a shopping centre is a good example, because your destination is the shop, but you're within within a structure that is not really meant to be there, right?
Yeah.
Or the other example would be airports.
Yeah.
Where your destination is the other country, but you have to go through this zone of nothing before you get there. And I think the theory on it is that people naturally, maybe not consciously, are uncomfortable in these places. And that is maybe where the sort of idea of that type of music that you play in shopping centres or airports comes from. Sort of easy listening, sort of non-threatening, just background diegetic almost music. And what I like with this album is, and maybe this is reading into it, but you sort of, you have that critique of capitalist culture, and there's a real sort of slightly, or like very prominent sort of melancholia to the record. That's like, this is sort of not how it should be, really.
Yeah.
And that's what I sort of liked about it. But I'll tell you, the book that I read that got me interested, like got me thinking about this, was, there's a really good book called Babbling Corpse, Vaporwave and the Commodification of Ghosts.
Okay.
It's like a little short philosophical book. I think it's only about 100 pages, maybe.
Okay.
And it's Grafton Tanner is the author. I've got it in the house, actually. I should have brought it for you. But I'll give you it if you want for a. And he goes more into sort of.
If it's small, I might just buy it myself, because it does genuinely sound interesting.
It's quite interesting, and that goes more into the sort of the heavy philosophy, you know, Derrida and Mark Fisher and all this sort of stuff. But yeah, no, it's no. So would you say, to steer us back into sort of musical discussion, would you say that you like the album?
Yeah, because it is, if you remove it from any sort of idea of interpretation, any subjective kind of interpretation, or like trying to decipher whatever artistic statement is trying to make, it still is a real big mood. It's a really pleasant experience to listen to for the fact that it like just puts you in a fucking headspace that really, it's excellent doing other stuff music. Or lying down in a dark room music. It can be both. You could be lying just fucking staring into nothing and enjoy it because you'll get almost trance-like with it. Or you could be fucking gaming. Am I right, gamers? You can be doing a video game and playing that in the background.
Chill beats.
Yeah, you'll get some chill beats to study to. To game to. Am I right, gamers? Rise up.
This was a games channel originally, right?
I guess, yeah. I suppose I just, games are shite though, so I can't even be bothered.
The next month we'll do the soundtrack to Sonic just to
get that SEO money. Hopefully maybe someone will click on it. Do you remember Sonic, everyone? Do you remember how Sonic is somehow like the way that the world of the skeptics are going to challenge feminists with their Birds of Prey movie, the one about female superheroes, and apparently feminists created that movie.
Wait, what?
Yeah, there's an entire fake outrage about how Birds of Prey was supposed to be better than Sonic, and every feminist was saying it's going to be better than Sonic, and Sonic's like this antithesis to fucking the feminist stance of a comic book movie made by a big budget fucking Hollywood industrial complex to fucking sell tickets to dum-dums who like that shit. It's all dum-dum stuff for dum-dums. Why are these dum-dums pretending that this dum-dum stuff is feminist dum-dum stuff and fucking other things MRA dum-dum stuff or rational skeptic? So it's the rational movie apparently.
So is I mean, I've not seen the Sonic movie or any discussion on the Sonic movie or intend to look at any discussion on the Sonic movie or see the Sonic movie. But is the Sonic movie a men's rights activist movie?
Absolutely not, but because it's a video game movie, a bunch of MRA, alt-right, like super centrist fucking libertarian dickheads online were saying that it's basically like, every one of those feminists wanted this to not perform well at the box office, and look at what happened. Birds of Prey, a female-led movie made by feminists, was bad at the box office, and Sonic's doing great. What does that tell you? Gamers rise up. It's got all that kind of patter where, like, apparently because it's a female-led movie, it holds a stance on feminism, or it's like anti-gamer.
I would have thought that Sonic would have done better because Birds of Prey is a 15 and Sonic's a children's film.
Exactly.
And the weather's been bad.
And
so
also,
you might as well go to see a piece of shit film in the cinema.
Also, they called it Birds of Prey and not Harley Quinn's Big Adventure or something. Harley Quinn is in it and she's a very recognisable character. Would you know what the fuck I was talking about if I said Birds of Prey?
No.
No, you'd be like, DC's women's like Suicide Squad. It's Suicide Squad, but it's all women, and that's it.
Suicide Gals. No, that's a different thing. No, don't look up that, kids.
Or do.
Does that still exist? I've never looked at it. Anyway.
I don't know. We're sex positive on this channel.
We are indeed.
Enjoy yourselves, but don't enjoy yourself watching some bullshit movie about Sonic the Hedgehog, a cultural icon that hasn't been relevant or good since 1993.
I don't know, man. Sonic told me not to go away with strangers.
That was when he was relevant and he had something to say, and he said, "Don't let strangers touch your pickle," and that was good advice back then. But you know what Sonic's been doing ever since? He's a bloated, fucked to death pile of shit that hasn't had a good game since the 90s.
You think you could turn Sonic, and you could probably turn Sonic into a vaporwave, sort of like endlessly running around these rings.
Yeah.
It's quite a sad existence that Sonic has.
Oh yeah.
You know, he's liberating these puppies or whatever it is in those things.
So anyway, that is our albums for the BoK Club. So now I suppose we should do some recommendations for next month. But
okay. I'm
genuinely having to pull this one out of my ass because I hadn't given it even a fucking second, I thought.
Okay.
So fuck it, why not? I'm just going to make you listen to Tool finally.
Okay, which one?
It's going to have to be Lateralis because that's like the big magnum opus,
okay,
I think.
Cool. Well, what should I expect from it? Because I did listen to, what was it? Fear Inoculum.
The most recent one?
I listened to Fear Inoculum.
Okay.
And it was okay. It wasn't really my sort of thing. I was thinking that Tool were more like the Melvins or like a little more flashier than it was going to be. So if I disregard the most recent album, should I go in blank to it or?
Well, Lateralis, I'd say musically sounds fairly similar to Fear Inoculum.
Okay.
However, it's more fleshed out in its concept, I'd say, maybe, and like a little bit more diverse in what they do with like the guitar sound and stuff like that, and like the time signatures and whatnot are a little bit more varied. So it's definitely, I'd say it's roundly the most perfect album Tool have ever made.
Okay.
However,
cool.
I'm a big mark, and I thought Fear Inoculum was great, but not many people did. So
I thought it was all right. You know, I thought it was okay. Cool. Well, okay, cool. I'm gonna give it a listen. It's unusual that I haven't heard it, considering my love of metal and being the right era.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, cool. I'll give it a listen. A lot of the albums that you've given me have a history with, and more so than mine. Outside of the Dizzy Rascal album, these albums I came to later because they were made before I was a teenager. I've listened to these albums as a teenager, but Dizzy Rascal was the only one that came out while I was a teenager. The other ones, you rediscover after the fact. Yeah. So I thought I'll go back into my own musical history and I'll give you something that I loved as young, and this is before I was a teenager. This album is 20 years old this year.
Okay.
So I would have first heard it when I was 11 or 10. And it is Primal Scream's Exterminator.
Okay.
Now, this is a stupid record, but I love it. It is so good. It's a great record. A lot of people would say that Screamadelica is a better record. Rest in peace, Andrew Waterall even. But I would argue that Exterminator is a more interesting album. I think song for song it's better. It has, by the way, the first song you'll listen to and you'll go, I can understand why an 11-year-old Eamon would have loved this. It has everything that has formed my... It's got horrible industrial, thrashy electro. It's got a bit of post-punk and a bit of everything, really, and it's all mixed together, and somehow it works. It's a total fucking mess of an album, and it's stupid as all really good fucking rock and roll records are, but it's fucking great. It's so good. Primal Scream are a frustrating band for people that like them, but because for every Screamadelica or for every fucking Exterminator, they will produce a sort of terrible Rolling Stones sort of album. So they're sort of, in dealing with Primal Scream, it's sort of like one off, one on, typically for their albums. And this is just, it just sums me up totally as an 11-year-old or whatever. And I listened to it recently, and it still holds up. I think it's banger after banger, and it's just good. There's no philosophical concept to this. It's a big stupid rock and roll record that I still love from when I was a Wayne.
Cool.
So, there you go.
It's actually one. Primal Scream was one I genuinely have been secretly dreading.
Yeah.
Because I've always had a weird vendetta against them.
Yeah.
Them and the the Stone Roses.
Yes, yeah.
For some reason, I'm like really against the Manchester sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I don't know what turned me off against them, but like...
I don't know. Maybe it's the excesses of it, or there is a certain laddishness with those bands, I guess.
Yeah.
That maybe turned you away from them, maybe.
But
yeah, this album just real stupid fun.
I'll happily give it a go, because I think like my biases weren't based on anything when I didn't like them way back when. And then when they released that single Country Girl, I was like, this is one of the worst things I'd ever heard.
That's so bad.
But I know that isn't representative of everything they've made. It's actually a standout as how bad it is.
I'll tell you a horror story about Primal Scream before we finish. I went to see them on the Country Girl album tour, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I've been to the heaviest metal and the scariest rap concerts, but Primal Scream's audience were the most demented I've ever seen. It is the only time that I have ever seen somebody smoking heroin in the SECC. I think that's what they were doing. They definitely had the tinfoil out and the little straw. I was like, fucking hell, cunts are taking heroin. That's how you take heroin, right? That's how you smoke it. And before the band even came on, there was a fucking guy down the front that sat down and then lay down, and then a smell emitted from him. I was like, this cunt shit himself.
Oh no.
Saying that, the band were great. The audience were cunts. The band were great. Maybe that's what turns you off.
Maybe
the fans
yeah,
are cunts.
Maybe there is a kind of a stigma against them because of the kind of people that I associate with it. But it's unfair to say
Cunty,
that.
shit yourself, smoking heroin, cunts.
I mean, I kind of like. Yeah, I suppose there's quite a few bands that are like that as well. Like, if it weren't for the fact that Oasis were shite anyway, their fans would turn me against them because their fans are shitheads as well.
Yeah,
but
Plus two are good. They're all right.
Yeah.
And then but no, I totally am with you.
But I think it'd be nice to maybe clear up some of my misconceptions of Primal Scream, and maybe somewhere down the line you give me some Stone Roses as well. I'll probably listen to it.
Musically, I think it is genuinely good. Screamadelica, maybe a better produced album, but I think it's slightly overrated. Oh, people over. I think it's slightly overrated in terms of song per song. I think it's more of Andrew Waterall's album than it is Primal Scream's. The production's really what sells it, whereas this album is just good, stupid electro banger song after good, stupid electro banger song. Bang, 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 bang.
I feel like I was a little worried that we were going to be a little rusty because it's basically been like 2 months off, but I've enjoyed this.
It's been a good. Maybe absence makes the heart grow fonder.
And I might have had a tirade, but hopefully I'm going to be making some videos as well on the channel soon. But like the podcast is going to hopefully proceed as usual. We'll be back next month, hopefully, with another episode, and go and listen to music because it's good. Don't play games though, because they're not very good.
Like and subscribe, comment down below, call us cretins, whatever you want to do.
Maybe join in the existential and sort of cultural discussion revolving around capitalism, consumerism, and the aesthetics of vaporwave if you want.
Go for it. Check out that book.
And have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.
See you soon. Bye.